Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. We have our good friend Reverend Will with us again. We are being blessed by his presence once again.
Thanks, Dan. I'll do my best.
First thing I want to talk about real quick. This is came up kind of quick, and it's coming up even quicker. But this is the Marijuana Super Pac. Recently, I was at the Voter Power Board and meeting, and the idea came up talking about having a statewide get-together of activists and supporters and trying to get their heads together and try to decide what to do next. Also to educate people on what's coming up with the legislature being in session. So on Saturday, February 11th at high noon here in Eugene, we're going to have the Marijuana Super Pac meeting. It'll take place at the Voter Power Building at 687 River Avenue. And that's free admission. We encourage people to come present their ideas on where we are or where we need to go. I've got an agenda started here, which I'll talk about in a second here, but this isn't a Voter Power project, this isn't a Willamette Valley Normal project, this isn't a Hempfest Hemp project, this is just an attempt to organize our defense/offense to be more efficient. You know the saying, if you united we stand, divided we fall. So I'm saying let's try and put the excessive dysfunctional behavior behind us and move forward. There's so much dysfunction in the movement. It's just tearing us up, and it really limits us on what we're doing. So we've got to try to put that behind us and get around it. On the agenda, I want to talk about is I want to start out with some opening remarks and then have introductions. Have everybody a quick introduction. Just a quick brief of who you are, and then we want to talk about the Oregon legislature, what to do about it. We've got two initiatives we want to talk about. OCTA 2012, which is petition number 9. People are gathering signatures for that, for the 2012 ballot. Also the OMPI. It used to be called the OMPI. Now it's called the Citizens for Sensible Law Enforcement. That's been revamped, and now it's filed in Measure 24, which makes cannabis it's a constitutional amendment that makes enforcement the lowest priority. Okay. You know, so and by the way, I'll have more information on future shows, but we were told that a very generous supporter is putting up over $100,000 for this campaign, and he's got a rich buddy that he's just pretty close to getting him on board, and then we're looking at a total of $400,000. So they're talking serious money to get us on the ballot. They're going to be paying petitions and also looking for volunteers too. Both.
So this is the OMPI or the Sensible?
Yeah, it used to be called OMPI, and now it's going by the Citizens for Sensible Law Enforcement. Like I said, I'll have more details. I don't have the information tonight, but
that's the one that will have all the support.
Yeah,
monetary support.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So.
Well, you know, when you were talking about this, we talked a little bit ago about the fact that that's as a group with all of us coming together, which shouldn't be so hard for us to do since we believe in the same message, which is that marijuana needs to be legalized so we can start doing the testing and other things on it. Individually, this is something that a friend of mine put together a long time ago, and it's called I Am Not a Criminal. It was written by Lalo Jones. And it says, I am your neighbor, your coworker, your friend. If you need my help, I will be there. Like you, I want a better, safer, and happier world for my children to grow like the beautiful little flowers they are. I want them to be free from prejudice, hate, war, and injustice. I have been labeled criminal by a government which has less regard for our Constitution and laws than I do. I refuse to support the balance of trade with our neighbor nations to the south because it is based on cocaine and weapons, which are equally evil in their potential to cause suffering. I refuse to support the criminal element in this or any other government. I reject the concept that weapons make better foreign policy than food and education. I refuse to pay taxes to a government which is committed to racism, corporate oppression of the weak, and the economics of pollution and death. I believe my body is my own sacred property, and no person has the right to demand a sample of my bodily fluids for the purpose of imposing their moral prejudices on me. Judge me by my actions, not the contents of my digestive tract. I am a criminal because I cultivate marijuana for personal use, yet tobacco farmers receive subsidies to cause 300,000 plus cancer deaths annually. It would seem that my real crime is refusing to support corporate America's profit margin by blindly consuming products which harm me, my family, and my brothers and sisters in the third world and other places. I am guilty of the crime of believing that we can live in peace with respect for the earth and all of its life forms. May peace be ours. Now, if you're not getting this in your life, then you're being discriminated against, and you really need to stand up and make a difference. Understand what's happened with Germany and all the different places where we've had genocide. We can name them over and over again in this world. It's going to happen here too if we really don't wake up and have an evolution. Because you have to understand, folks, that right now we're just another glitch in their concept on the road to a new world order. And if you want to know more about the new world order, check out the movie Thrive. If you want to know the other part of that same coin, which is utopia, it just shows that all we have to do is stand up to the new world order. Not that hard. Hopefully we can do it. In the meantime, with this as a personal agenda coming from the Church of the Caring, which cares enough to put this out once again, and this, which could be a super PAC coming together so that we can be involved in the politics of this country and make a difference. These are the kind of things that we're talking about and working together. You know, I know so many people who are bored on a daily basis because they don't have enough going on. Yet are they going to homes and reading to children? Are they going to senior centers and just being there with these people, sharing some time and some energy? I mean, my God, man, if you're sitting around doing medicine in order to survive, then why don't you take some time and share some energy with somebody else? Sharing that energy is one of the best healing practices you can get. So understand that's one of the things that I'm really involved in is this, supporting people and empowering themselves, and supporting us in getting together and getting past our BS and starting to make a difference because we care more and judge less. So
that's right. And if anybody wants this, I am not a criminal. I'm going to scan it, and you can send it as an email to the DanK Bagman, Eugene Cannabis TV, and I can send that to you electronically. That's nice enough to print out and frame because it's very well. It's all handmade, very nice.
I'd show it to you, but you probably wouldn't see it very well on the camera.
No, that's why. Yeah, we need to do it electronically. So if you're interested in getting that, let us know.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You bet.
So,
and the other thing I want to talk about too. This is really interesting. This came from a friend of ours out of Portland. She found this. It's the campaign from the National Families in Action, which is an anti-drug group, on their website. And it says, among other things on the website here, for 33 years, National Families in Action, NFIA, has opposed the legalization of marijuana. We still do. We do not want to see a third commercial industry market on addictive drug to children, like the tobacco and alcohol industries do today. Unfortunately, California nearly legalized marijuana in November 2010. Several states are preparing to follow in 2012. A federal legalization bill has also been introduced. The campaign mobilizes citizens to demand that any policymaker who legalizes marijuana include the law provisions that ensure the drug will not be marketed or sold to children. So, and then they suggest 12 provisions for legalization. I'll run them down real quick. No advertising, An advertising ban on legal marijuana, a penalty fee on the marijuana industry for every underage user, automatic repeal of marijuana legalization if underage marijuana use exceeds certain levels, no product placement, sponsorships, point-of-purchase marketing, or depictions in entertainment venues, an industry finance fund from marijuana profits to pay for the damage legal marijuana will do, so the taxpayers won't have to pick up the tab. A state agency to tax and regulate the marijuana industry, including marijuana purity and potency. Licensed growers, distributors, and retail sellers. Marijuana sold only in licensed and retail stores where no other products are sold. No drug driving. A ban on driving with marijuana in the system of drivers or passengers. No drugged employees or students. A ban on people coming to work or school with marijuana in their systems. Smoke-free laws. No marijuana use where tobacco smoking is banned. Marijuana controlled by FDA. Marijuana placed under the control of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, like tobacco is now. Interesting, they want that like tobacco, but they didn't want the marketing. But anyway, a Surgeon General's report on the impact of illegal marijuana. So even though at least half these, there's no way we could really support them, but it's still interesting. The fact is, it's interesting that they're actually looking for the point that it actually may be legalized. So now they're, anyway, it's a big turnaround for their organization, I think. And a friend of ours that gave it a heads up on it says, I think this is just it's just fascinating because it is pretty much the first time I have ever seen a prohibitionist group attempt to address the question of what would we accept with legalization.
Right.
Well, I disagree with many of their provisions. I do think it provides an excellent foundation for us to look at to see what the other side is concerned with. It is the start of the rational conversation we are all begging for. So
Dan, following that up here, I mean, we've got something where, we're always talking about how we've got so little money to work with, But here we have this. I just want to read parts of this. Jeffrey H. Moran goes to work each day. He swipes his security badge, passes into an airtight chamber, opens a bomb-proof door, and enters a lab of deadly toxins. As chief of the counter-terrorism laboratory at the Arkansas Department of Health, one of 62 such federally funded labs in the country. He heads 24 chemists who are on constant alert for the release of pestilence or poisons in the United States. Armed with $2 million worth of new equipment, Moran concocts gruesome tests to keep his team sharp. He has laced samples of baby formula with lethal ricin, poured rat poison into water bottles, tainted blood with cyanide gas. None of those are based on real plots, thankfully, so he's added a new task, helping police in half a dozen states identify spice, a chemical substance that produces a marijuana-like high and has had hundreds of users to emergency rooms. It's an unknown chemical, Moran said. That's exactly what we would have to deal with in a terrorist attack. Well, there's more about this, but, Stuart Baker, former head of policy at the Department of Homeland Security, said he wasn't surprised that Little Rock's high-tech lab is helping police ferret out potheads. See, they loop us with everything that's bad. Otherwise, they would be like Maytag repairmen, just sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. Well, are they doing any less anyway? But Congress has given more than $5 billion to states and territories since 2001 to prepare public health facilities, laboratories, and first responders for a chemical or biological attack. About $600 million is still issued in grants each year, including $7 million to Arkansas. I'm glad that they have this unit, but understand for them to be using their facilities to...
Right, and it's saying here, using a counter-terrorism lab to test for synthetic marijuana is the latest sign of how a multi-billion-dollar national infrastructure built to detect or respond to chemical or biological attacks over the last decade has adapted to the lack of any actual attacks. So we got to find a use for it, to spend all that money. But and the other thing that tickles, I don't know about tickles, but it's the spice, now they're worried about spice and it's causing all these problems. Well, the reason we have spice is because marijuana is illegal. We got the safe one that's illegal, and so now they're having an unsafe drug because, you know, it's just crazy.
These people want their high, and understand that's one of the things about it for us is the fact that of all the people in the world, we're the ones that are told that we can't use what we would like to be able to relax, to be able to enjoy life. That's all we're asking for. If you've never smoked herb, you have no idea except how other people with their addiction have responded to it. And you don't know what they're getting. That's one of the reasons we have such a hard time not being able to do the research that we would like to do on pot, on the strains, on how we can grow it so that it's a medicine as well as spiritual and also industrial. But in order to do that, you have to break things down. Okay, and the government isn't even telling the truth in the first place. They say they don't have any medical patients. Understand, they have medical patients. There are people who are alive that get money or get herb from the government, grown at a university, rolled in joints, put in silver canisters, and sent to these people. And one of the reasons we don't want the government involved in this process is how the joints react with the people. The people are not happy with the quality of the herb that they get from the government. Are they happy with the quality of the herb that they get from people who grow it with love and care and get it to them because they care about them being patients? Hell yeah! All right, so, you know, it's the government's inability to tell the truth. That's one of the biggest problems we have.
Yeah, what we'll talk about is the federal program where I think there's 4 patients left that are getting their medical marijuana from the federal government.
And one of them is right here in Oregon.
And yes, Alvy has been on our show many times and is one of the 4 that lives right here in town. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but you know the quality has gotten better?
Oh, from the government?
Yes, yes. Alvy says that it actually is really pretty good now. She has no idea why, but all of a sudden the quality used to be it was so poor it wasn't hardly even good enough to cook with.
Right.
And now it's excellent. She said it's so, yeah, surprised.
Yay, government. All right, now if you'll just own the fact that you're doing it.
That's right. But it is grown in Mississippi, University of Mississippi, the federal government, yes. That's the fact. A lot of people are quite surprised to hear that.
So you have something that the Supreme Court's saying?
Yeah, this was interesting. This came out January 23rd. This is, again, by the way, I keep going to bring this up. StopTheDrugWar.org is an excellent website for information on what's going on in the news. StopTheDrugWar.org. But this is about that police need a warrant for GPS tracking. So once in a while, the Supreme Court does surprise us and actually comes up with a ruling that's fairly sensible, you know. But
I like it.
Supreme Court unanimously ruled unanimously Monday that police must obtain a search warrant before using a GPS device to track criminal suspects. But the decision was narrow, leaving unanswered lingering questions about citizens' expectations of privacy in an age of rapid technological advance. So anyway, it's the writing the majority opinion, Justice Anton Scalia.
Oh, yeah, Scalia.
Said police needed a search warrant before attaching a GPS device to a suspect's vehicle. He was joined in the opinion by Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Anthony Kennedy, Clarence Thomas, and Sonia Stoudemire. We hold that the government's position of a GPS device on the target's vehicle and its use of the device to monitor the vehicle's movements constitutes a search under the Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. So, small victory or small improvement, I guess, in the situation. But you know, by the way, excuse me. Years ago, I was on KUGN, and they used to have a local talk show, and I've forgotten the subject. But a guy called in and said that he was a radio repair person, and that he was working on a government car one time, and he had the transmitter was in the trunk. He opened up the trunk to get to the transmitter, moved a briefcase, another one fell over, and some paper spilled out. Did I ever tell you the story?
No.
He said some paper spilled out. He went to pull them, shove them back in, and the top one, he said, was a blank search warrant signed by a judge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the saddest thing about it is that we could really make some money for people, and we would also be able to get our integrity back, you know, because that's the part about this dysfunctionality that I have the hardest time with, is the fact that we see how the government is and we see how people interact and why we can't do it differently, having learned the lesson that, you know, everybody has problems with something about some things. So the whole thing is that if you can find those things that work together, for instance, cancer research, and looking in the wrong area, spending all this money to look in the wrong area, when if you were looking in the right area, you would be able to save people's lives. Okay, now when you can't tell people that because the federal government is telling you, oh, it's bad for you and it's illegal, and people have all this stuff invested in the federal government so they want to believe them, then we really don't have any room for us to be able to make a difference at this time, because you want to believe the government. But understand, I learned from the Vietnam War that you can't trust the government. They lied there. They've been lying most of their lives in there. It's all about who the lobbyists are that have the most money that can make the difference by pulling the strings. And that's why the lobbyists need to go. And if the congressmen don't have the kind of integrity that can make a difference, we can get rid of them too. We can do this electronically. We do not need Congress people who do represent us who don't represent us. You know, it's just that simple. The mayor of this city and the city council has showed me absolutely no respect in regard to marijuana. It's one of those things where they just don't want to know. And I want to go in there with a bunch of people and say, discrimination free, start with me.
You bet.
Okay.
Well, we got to wrap up, and if you want that I Am Not a Criminal, copy of that, send us an email. Thanks so much for bringing that in, Reverend Will.
You're welcome,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we'll be here another time and more information, so thank you.
Peace out.
Marijuana, but I don't know if it had something in it. Can you please send rescue?
Did you guys have fever or anything?
No, I think we're dying.
Okay, how much did you guys have?
I don't know, we made brownies, and I think we're dead. Time is going by really, 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 really slow.
All right, we're here with Troy and with the M scale, so I appreciate it, and we're just doing some clips, and the clip today is we're talking about the MX analytical portion of the M research, and we were just talking earlier that Troy mentioned that there were more than one THC. So could you dive into that a little bit, because that was something I'd never heard of before.
Well, actually, so there are many cannabinoids. Okay, so the active class of chemicals on the plant provides are called cannabinoids. Currently, that number is known to be around 85 to 87 of them. Okay, we know this because of the possibilities of the precursors that become cannabinoids, and then those possibilities, you know, one becomes two, those two become six, and so it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. If you were to run that adventure all the way out, you would have 87 different chemicals that meet up at cannabinoid, or the definition of a cannabinoid. They're not a nitrogen-based chemical, which is kind of important for the synthetic cannabinoids, because when they're talking about synthetic cannabinoids, they're actually not talking about molecules that are even close. Okay, so if you were to put them up, and you would say, gosh, there's a similarity of all these cannabinoids, and these look very different. So they're definitely, there's not the synthetic cannabinoids that have become in the light with some of these products that are out there that people are making are definitely not the natural cannabinoids that are amongst the plant. There are 85 to 87 naturals.
And these are this is what helps people medically, is the CBDs.
They are the medicinal constituent. Right. They're the motor. In that span of 85 different cannabinoids, there's actually 12 families. So there's 12 families among the 85. One of those families is THC. But within the family of THC, there's actually 12, okay, so 12 of those 85 are THCs, but there are 12 different cannabinoids, okay, 12 different THCs. If we were to look at when people say delta-9 THC or THC, what we mean is the delta-9 configuration, and it'd be impossible to draw it here in space, but it's just, imagine we've got kind of like this big molecule here, and the way that it's substituted as a delta-9 substitution, and off the end of it is a little ligand, a little carbon ligand. And when there's 5 of those, that's THC. When there are 3 of those, that is THCV. THCV and THC within the same family basically do the opposite of each other. Okay? So when somebody says high THC is strong, do you mean the C5 activity that people kind of associate, or do you mean couch lock? Okay? Another family is CBDs. Another family is CBNs. Another family is CBCs. And so within there, like with CBD, there are 8. And so we can kind of get into a little bit later, but the point being is that diversity and those working together are uber important for the overall medicinal results of the plant. Because a lot of the cannabinoids won't work unless their friends are present. So when we look at inside of the body, the endocannabinoids, phytocannabinoids come together and like Legos, I guess would be a way of explaining it. We have a big block, but we have all these little flat guys. Unless we stack all these flat guys and push them together and make the equivalent of a block, and now they act in the body as a endocannabinoid for the body. So the phytos get together, create the same shape or the effective shape of the body version, what we have in our body where we've ever used marijuana or not, and that goes on to basically interact with our body. So it's really important that we understand that there's a distinction, because medically speaking, some versions of THC cause us to go up, and some versions of THC cause us to go down, and other ones have no felt effect but cause biological systems to react, as say a neuroprotection or as apoptosis in cancer cells. Very, very, very important results. But to say something has 23% THC, I instantly know they have no idea what they're talking about. They're either trying to sell you something or they're trying to incarcerate you. Those are the only 2 options for that.
Yeah, that's a good to keep in mind. Well, that's interesting, and there's testing for these. There's labs now that specialize in the testing. I know of 2, probably more than that, but I know of 2. So that's a possibility. What's the charge? See, if a person just wanted to have them tested, what is that kind of run?
That kind of varies, and so maybe that would be a good one for a different segment. But,
okay.
But so it's a vary.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap up this segment. So appreciate it, Troy, and
thanks, Tim.
More information. It's mind-boggling. It's incredible. So we're out of here. Check you next time.